So last 3-4 sessions, we started with encapsulation, which talks about data hiding. Okay, thank you. So today could be the last session on encapsulation, and then we'll move to the next topic. So in this encapsulation, we started with how we write classes and how we create objects. Okay, and then we stepped into uh, constructors, like how can we make constructors for accessing your data members. And then we started with packages concept, and then with access modifiers. So today we will be talking about the journey of Java member access modifiers, because last class we discussed about class level access modifiers. So before I get into today's topic, I would like to revise quickly about the class level access modifiers and whatever we discussed so far. So last class, okay, we discussed that whatever the top level class you are making, okay, whatever the top level class, okay, top level class. Why I'm calling it as a top level class? Because in Java it is possible to have nested classes, meaning a class inside another class. Then the rules may change, but for the top level classes, okay, for the top level classes, the only access modifiers allowed are public and default. Okay, the only access modifiers allowed as public and default. Okay, public and default. I already also told you there is no keyword for default. If you do not mention any access modifier in Java, it will be by default treated as a default. But I also told you, like from Java 8 onwards, there's a default keyword added for a different reason, but not as an access modifier. Okay, because now if you search that default is a keyword, then obviously Java says that yes, default is a keyword, but not for access modifier. It got added for some other reason. So moving forward, when we explore Java 8, Java 9, Java 11, all these enhanced versions, we will talk about these concepts as well, okay, along with functional programming and all. So we see like top level classes can be public and default. Now you can control your class by making it public or by making it default. Can someone tell me what is default is also called as? What is default modifier is also called as? Do you remember? Like package private. Very nice. Thank you, Vishnu. It's called package level access modifier, also called as package private access modifier, meaning they can only access inside the package. They can only access inside the package. Okay. They cannot access outside the package. Whereas public, you can access anywhere. Okay, you can access anywhere if you declare the class as public. We also seen like you cannot make your classes as private. You cannot make your top level classes as private and protected. You cannot make top level classes as private and protected. If you make top level classes as private and protected, you will be getting an error. Okay, you will be getting an error. Like for example, if I go here, if I make my test class as private, okay, if I make this test class as private, I will be getting an error. Let me see this. Why is the code? Okay, so I go here. Now, if I compile Java C test.java, I will be getting an error saying that your class cannot be private. Okay, so private modifiers are not allowed here. Private modifiers are not allowed here. So you cannot have any top level class as private. But moving forward, we will see nested classes can be private, protected and all. But at least we are talking about the top level classes. So top level classes cannot be private and cannot be protected. So even if I use the protected access modifier, okay, if I use the protected access modifier, I will be getting a similar error saying that modifier protected is not allowed here. Modifier is protected is not allowed here. So the only modifier allowed for top level classes are access modifier can be public and default. Okay, but make sure the moment you make public, the rule applies that the class name and file name becomes mandatory. Okay? Because I told you like class name and file name can be different, but the moment you make the class as public, then file name and class name should be same. Otherwise, you'll be getting error. Why this rule has been added? Because in a file, you may have multiple classes, but you can have a file name only for a class. Let's say you have 100 classes in a file because it's allowed, but not a good practice, but it is allowed to have 100 classes in a file. But basically, one among them should be the name of the file name and class name should be same. So that class you can make it public. So you cannot have two public classes in a same program. Otherwise, you will get error. Okay. Now this will work fine. If I compile the code, it will not complain me anything. So when I compile this, as you can see, it's getting compiled. Okay. Because I have no problem making the class as public. I have no problem making the class as public. Okay, but if I have, let's say if I make it as test one now, if I make it as test one, now I will be getting an error because now the file name and class name is different. Now you see the class test one is public, should be declared in a file name test1.java. So you may get this kind of tricky questions sometimes in interviews, like can we have two public classes in a same file? The answer will be no, because the rule is whenever you make any class as public, okay, other than the accessibility of the class. One more rule for the public classes is the file name and the class name is same if it is a public modifier. If it is a public modifier. And we know if I make the class as public, then I can access anywhere. Then I can access anywhere in any package. I can access in package 1, package 2, package 3, package 4. Outside the package, anywhere I can access the public classes. Whereas if I make this as default, if I make this as default, and suppose if it is in package com.s, then I can only access inside this package only. I can access this class inside the package. Accessing means importing the class, making an object of the class, okay, calling the constructor, anything. The class itself will not be available to. The class itself is not available. There was a question which I have posted long back. Let's see if you can answer this. Let's say, for example, we have a class here, let's say test, okay? And we have a string here, okay? Now, let's get into today's topic. And I would like to see if anybody having any question on access modifiers for the classes. Any question? If everything is okay, please type Y so that I can start with member access modifiers. So believing that for now, all concepts are clear, encapsulation, packages concept, and class level access modifiers. Okay. Even today, we will plan a small quiz, so that we can see, because every conclusion of the topic, it will be good if I can have a small test just for self-assessment. Okay, and possibly we will discuss that test paper as well. If you can complete early, then we can discuss the test paper so that we can understand. And I think that's the best way to conclude any of the topic, that whether you can able to tackle any kind of questions asked from that particular concept. Okay, so after completing of every concept, we'll have a small test for 5-10 minutes so that we'll have a quick analysis like where we actually stand. And I wanted to see like where majority of you are facing difficulty so that I can discuss. It's not for like scoring and anything. It's just for the self-assessment. So possibly we'll have a test after this topic. So please get ready. Now we will be talking about the member modifiers. Basically, members means it could be the data members, it could be the methods, it could be the constructors. Okay, so you can use the modifiers with the members as well. So if I make the members as public, if I make the members as public, let's see what will happen if I make the members as public. Whenever you make any method or variable member is declared as public, It means all other classes, regardless of the packages they belongs to, can access the member, assuming the class itself is visible. This is important. Okay, this is important. So meaning if I make any variable as public or any method as public, then I can use that particular a variable in any class. Let me explain this with a diagram. Okay, let me go here and explain this with a diagram. So let's say, for example, we have different packages here. We have different packages. Sorry. So we'll make packages. So let's say this is my package one, and we have another package. Let's say we have another one as package two. Okay, so these are the two packages we got. So let's name this as package one. Okay, and let's name this as package two. See, if you understand this particular diagram, because we will use
Placements కి
this,
సంబంధించి చెప్తున్నాం.
we were having this two packages now, package one and package two. Now, let me tell you the scenario. The scenario is we have a class A here. We have a class A here. Okay. And we have class B inside this package. Okay. We have class B inside this package. Now we have class C, okay, which is extending from A. So it becomes the child class. Anyhow, we will talk about inheritance moving forward. For now, just remember, like we use extends keyword for inheriting. Now A becomes a parent class and C becomes the child class for A, because the moment I use extends, it becomes the child class. Now we have class D as well. We have class D, okay, as well. So now the thing is, as I told you here, as I told you, if you make any method or variable member is declared as public, it means all other classes, regardless of the packages, whether they belongs to package one, whether they belongs to package two, whether they belongs to package three or any package, they can access. Suppose if I have here public, okay, int A, public int A. Now tell me where I can access this A, where I can access this A, in which classes I can access in A, class B, class C, and class D. Which classes I can access this variable A? Okay, Manoj thinks like in A and C. Okay, I made this variable A as public. Now, where I can access this class A? Can I access in B? Can I access in C? And can I access in D as well? Okay. Shravani says we can access in all classes. Okay, great. Right. That's what it means when you make any member, whether it could be a method or whether it could be a variable. If you can make this public, you can access anywhere. Okay. There is no restriction. Anyway, anybody can access. Package one classes can access, package two class can access. So A can be accessed anywhere. A can be accessed anywhere. So A can access, sorry, let's make the variable name as X so that it differentiates. Now, if I take this X, then X can access in A class, it can be accessed in B class, it can be accessed in C class, and it can also be accessed in D class. So meaning the moment you make any variable as public, the moment you make any variable as public, then these can be accessed anywhere. This can be accessed. Okay, so let's conclude this. But one thing I wanted to tell you here, assuming the class itself is visible. So you may get this kind of tricky questions in interviews. Very simple. Let's say we have class test. We have class test. Now I make one variable called public string. Okay, public string s is equal to help. Public string s is equal to help. Okay. Now tell me, I made this class, I make this variable as public. Okay, now can I access this variable in any package? Uh, let's say we make this package as com.as, okay? Or let's make it simple. Let's say pack1. So now, if I am in package 1, okay, and I make this variable as public string s is equal to hello. Can I access this variable in anywhere? Yes, someone said yes. Now, uh,
Yes, maybe. If you
okay,
export the package, if
okay.
you
You
import the
mean that
package.
this can be accessed in any package? Okay, Navya thinks no. Why, Navya? Why do you think like even though it is public, you cannot access in other classes? Even though I make the variable as public, because just now we have seen if I make any variable as public, if I make any variable as public, I can access any. Navya is correct because you see the class is default, right? The class is default, even though you make the member as public, but the class is default, then can we access in other packages? Yes or no? Even though the member is public, even though the member is public, but if the class is default, can we access them in other packages? Correct. Okay, so remember this. Just making the members as public doesn't mean that you can access everywhere. Okay, first thing, the class must be visible, and that's what this line is talking about. Assuming that class itself is visible, and you know that if class is default, then I can access only in package one. I cannot access in package two. Now, going here, I must make sure that class is public. Huh? Class must be public, then only I can access this public data in other classes. Then only I can access this public data in other classes. Okay. So now with a quick diagram, we will conclude this public access modifier, quite straightforward. And it has the widest scope among all modifiers. I told you this is the least access modifier we have because it can be accessed anywhere. You can access in the same package, you can access it in other packages, other classes, you can access anywhere, but make sure the class must be public. Otherwise, if class is not available, then you cannot access the members as well. Now, if you look at this diagram, this will help you to understand that you can access from anywhere. Let's say we have a class A in one package and we have a main class, okay, some in some other package. I can make an object of this class and I can access the method because the method is public. Okay, the method is public. I can access this public method. So that's the reason we make methods and constructors are public so that we can able to access them from anywhere. But still, you have four access modifiers: public, protected, default, and private. Accordingly, you can restrict because all modifiers are allowed. So it's your call whether you wanted to make the variables as public, private, protected, or default. It's your call whether you wanted to make the methods as public, private, protected, or default. Even constructors, can be private, protected, public, and default. So all these members of the class can make use of these four access modifiers, whereas class can only use two of them, just public and default. Now with this, can we conclude the public access modifier for members, whether it can be variable, whether it can be method, whether it can be a constructor. If it is public, they can access anywhere. They can access anywhere. Just remember this diagram. This makes it clear for you that the variable X is public, so I can access in all classes. I can access in all classes. Clear for all? Is public access modifier clear for all member? If the class is public, but the members are not public, then you cannot access. Okay. Okay. So making a class public, meaning that class is available, you can make an object of the class. But if the members are not public, if they private, protected, default, then the rule applies for these members. You cannot access these members in other classes if the class is public. Okay. If you want this also to be accessed anywhere, then it should be public as well. If class is public, but members are not public, then they're not visible, they're not available. Okay. Class public doesn't mean that now class is public, whatever the members are there directly you can access. No, you cannot do that. Okay. So that's why access modifiers For class access modifiers for members, all matters. Okay, all behave differently. So accordingly. So this is wonderful question to conclude. Now I will go for the next access modifier here, which is private access modifier. Okay, and we know like if I make any member marked as private, we cannot access by the code. We cannot access by the code in any other class. Okay, the private members can only be accessed within the same class. So wherever you declare, only inside that you can access the private data members. And we know private access modifier is the most restricted access level, because you cannot access, even in the same package, you cannot access anywhere about the private. Classes and interfaces cannot be private, we have seen. Using private modifiers in the is the main way that object encapsulates itself and hide the data outside. So I told you in the rule of encapsulation, I told you that whenever you're making any class, let's say bank class, then I told you, please make sure all your data members are private so that it will be hidden from outsiders. They should not access them directly. That's the main rule for encapsulation, that making sure that data members are private, unless you wanted to make any variable which could be public and not sensitive, then you can make it public. But 99.9% you want your data to be private, and that's the reason we made all your data members as private. We make all the data members as private. Even your constructors can be private. Okay, I told you there's a special concept we'll be learning moving forward, as it is not part of your JNTU, but it's a very important interview question. So we will be discussing about it. Why we make constructors as private? Because most of the time we like need a singleton classes. There's a special concept called singleton classes. I'll talk about what is singleton classes, what are factory methods, and how we can make an object for it. And also we will be making use of a lot of predefined classes like that. So you need to have a understanding like why constructors can be private. But remember, again, constructors can be any access modifier, can be public, can be private, can be protected, anything. You can make the constructor with all access modifiers. Even methods can be private. If you wanted to make that method as private, make sure like these methods cannot be accessed by other classes. They cannot call them even. Okay, they cannot call them even. Uh, Only this class can make use out of it. Let's say if I make this as private, if I make this as private, now I cannot call this print balance method from any other class, any other class. Let's say we have this package com.as.iob. Now I go to test. What I will do is I will make another package, let's say com.as.testing. I hope that's what we made last time, testing. And then I will be importing that pack class. I need a bank class, let's say. So I'll be importing it com.as.iob. Okay. Import com.as.iob.bank. So bank getting imported. Now, when I'm importing, you need to make sure that class is public or not. We made protected to check whether it is allowed or not. Let's make public again. If it is not public, you can see that it will not be accessible in other package. Now we're in the testing package. Bank is in IOB package. So both are different packages. If you want to import that class, first of all, the class must be visible. So making class public is mandatory here. If it is default, then it is not available. So that way you can restrict actually. Now we go here and make a main method as public, okay, static void main, and taking string array as an argument. I told you like this is the good practice for making an array in Java. Then I just try creating an object of the bank class. So I say bank C1 is equal to new bank. Now, you know, we have our parameterized constructor. So calling a default constructor is a wrong way. Okay. I must pass the arguments, because here you need to check which constructor you're invoking. So we have a 3-parameter constructor here. So now we can actually pass the 3-parameter constructor. So I'll be passing the name of the customer. I'll be passing the account number of the customer. Then I will be passing the balance for the customer. Okay. I'll be passing the balance for the customer. Now, as till now, it's okay. Why? Because the class is public. So I can import it. Sorry, I can import that particular class. I can make an object of the class. Even I can invoke the constructor because even constructor is public. Constructor is public, right? So that way all goes well. There is nothing. There is nothing problem. Now when I compile the code, you can see that my bank class or the test class gets compiled with no error. With no error. If I execute, I need to compile with the options because now it has packages, right? So -d dot test dot Java, still it gets compiled. Now when I run Java and I give the complete, what I can say, the package name dot test. This is how we need to execute, right? So when I execute, no output now, but because I'm not writing anything inside it, so just constructing an object. So perfectly compiled and perfectly executed without any error. But the moment I go here and make the class as default, the moment I go here, make the class as default, then I will be getting errors. At which lines, guys? Which lines will give me error if I make the class as default? Can you just look at this program and tell me which lines will get the errors or how many errors we will be getting it? Six errors. Line number 6 will get error. Okay. Thank you, Navya. Let's see from others as well. Which lines will give you error now? Okay. Line number 6 will give error. How many errors you will get at line number 6? Understanding the compiler is the best way of learning the languages. 3 errors you will get. Okay. Actually, expecting like everybody said like line number 6 will give error, but let me add line number 2 also will give error. Agree with me? Line number 2 will also give an error because you cannot even import that class if the class is not public. So line number 2 will give one error and line number 6 will give two errors. Why? Because I'm trying to access the class for making an object and also I'm trying to call the constructor. So constructor is also not available because I told you the moment class is not public, you cannot access anything from that. Okay, you cannot access anything, even not a deposit method, withdraw method, nothing can be accessed if the class is not public if you are in different package. Getting my point, everyone? This is important, so I'm repeating again and again about the class is default or public. So now you can see here, when I go back and compile this time, you see earlier there were no errors, but now if I compile, I will be getting 3 errors. Sorry, I haven't saved, I guess. And bank class, also I need to compile. So let's compile the bank class as well because the changes been made in bank class. We must compile bank class. Now I compile the bank class. Now I compile the test class. You will be getting 3 errors. Okay, 3 errors. You see line number 2 is giving me error saying that bank is not public, so you cannot import it. Line number 6 giving 2 errors that bank is not public, you cannot create access the class, and bank is not public, so you cannot call the constructor. Clear for all? What happens if the class is not public? Even though you have constructor public, you have other methods public, you cannot access. That when the class is public, okay, you can import the class, you can make an object of the class, and then you can call the constructor as well. Okay, so perfect. Great. Now I made the class public, so now it will be allowed. Let me compile the bank class now. Let me compile the bank class. Okay, the class gets compiled. Now when I run this, you see, it's perfectly, I mean, it's working. Now even if I run, it's printing no output, but still it's working. Okay, still it's working. Now I wanted to print the balance. I wanted to print the balance. So when I say C1 dot print balance, okay, the method name is print balance. Now, will this work? Will this line number 7 will work? No. Why it will not work? Why line number 7 will not work? Because we declared that method as private. Okay, we declare that method as private. Okay, so now if I try to access any private, see here class is visible, right? Class is public, but the variable is private. I mean, sorry, method is private. The method is private. The moment you make method as private, even though the class is visible, you cannot access them. You cannot access. So I compile, let me clear the screen, compile the bank class, okay, compile the test class. You see, it will give you error. Print balance has private access in bank, so you cannot access them outside the package. So where we can access this only inside the same class, only bank class can access print balance. So if your requirement is you wanted to make any method which can be accessed only by the same class, okay, only by the same class, then you can make the methods as right. Otherwise, 99% your methods will be public. Okay, your methods will be public because you wanted them to access outside. Only if you are calculating something inside this class itself and they can be used by the same class, then you can make it as private. Otherwise, 90% of the time your methods will be public so that you can access them outside. You can access them outside. Now I go here, compile the code. This time you can see that the code gets compiled. I compile the bank class. I compile the test class. Okay, it's getting compiled this time because I made the changes for, okay, now I execute. You can see it's getting printed. Rahul, your current balance is 1,000. Rahul, your current balance is 1,000. Now, question to everyone. Can I make this constructor as private? Can I make the constructor as private? We have seen like members can be private, methods can be private, but they cannot access. Now the constructor can be private. Yes or no? The constructors can be private. If you're responding, sorry, I cannot see your messages. Okay. Navya says no. Uh, constructor cannot be private. Vishnu thinks yes, constructor can be private. Let's see from others as well. Varshit also thinks constructor can be private. Okay. Now, if I compile my bank class, will I get any error? If I compile my bank class, will I get any error? Because the constructor is private. I made the constructor as private. If I compile my bank class, will I get any error? I will not get any error because constructor can be private. Constructor can be private. I told you constructor can be private. Okay, especially in the concept of singleton classes, you can make constructor private and it is allowed. Like the data members as private, the methods can be private. In a similar way, constructor can be private. Constructor can be private. Now, if I compile my test class, will I get error? If I compile my test class, will I get error? Okay, we'll get error. Okay, which line we will get error? Which line we will get error and how many errors we will get? Because now by looking at the code, you can predict, right? Whether it will be a compile time error, whether it could be a runtime error, because you're learning the rules now. So if you're not following the rules, you're very sure. So you become like a compiler. You start thinking like a compiler. Okay. What sheet says like line number 6 will give error. How many errors will give? Line number 6 will give error. How many errors we will get now? Line number 6 and 7. Okay. Let's see how many errors we will get. One error. Okay, nice. So Pranay says line number 6 will give error and that is one error. Okay. Line number 6 will give error and that is one error. That's correct. So when I compile, you can see only constructor cannot access now. You see, bank string long double. This is my constructor. Has a private access in the bank, but it's not complaining me for making an object because class is visible. So I can make an object for the class, but constructor is private. So you cannot call the constructors. Obviously, object is not getting created. Okay. So again, 90% of the time, constructor will not be private. But I told you special cases like singleton classes where you don't want others to make an object. You wanted to supply only one object for a particular class. Then you can make that singleton classes, and along with the factory methods, you can make the object. But having a constructor private is perfect. Nothing wrong having the constructor private. Okay. So with this, can we conclude the private variable? Let's say we have private int y, private int y. Now tell me where I can access this y, where I can access this y now as per our discussion, in which classes I can
Yes.
access y. Class A, class B, class C, class D. Only A, right? Only class A. Okay? Only class A. Can I access in class B even though it's in same package? We cannot access even though it's in same package, we cannot access. So at the end, for all modifiers, if you remember this diagram, you can answer any question. Till now, it's very straightforward. Public and private is the most straightforward access modifier. Public says that you can access anywhere, and private says that you can access only inside the same class. You cannot access in other classes, even though if it is in the same package. Even though if it is in the same package, you cannot access them for private access. But most questions you get in interviews are from default and protected. Okay, public versus default, public versus protected, protected versus default. So here little confusion. So let's make it simple for you all. Let's conclude this private access modifier. So look at this diagram. If you have a class A, which has a private method, uh, then this method too can access. Can someone justify how method 2 can access this method 1? How method 2 can access method 1? Because here it says that method 2 can access method 1. They can call, they can invoke the methods, they can access methods. Why? Even though the methods are private. The method 2 is also in the same class. So that way what happens? That method 2 can access method 1 because they belongs to same class. But by class B cannot access, even they can make an object, but they cannot access these method 1 or method 2 because they belongs to different class. Even though they may be in the same package, different package doesn't make sense. Okay, doesn't make any difference. The moment the method is private, remember, they can only be accessed inside the same class. They can only be accessed inside the same class. They cannot access outside the class. They cannot access in class B. They cannot access anywhere. Clear? So this way we conclude the, okay, imagine they are in the same package. So let's talk about protected access modifier. Okay. Now one question is, which is more restricted, protected or default? Which is more restricted? This is general question you get in interview, regarding protected and default. Correct. So we have learned default is more restricted. Okay, default is more restricted. So let's do one thing. Let's discuss the default access modifier first, and then we'll get into protected so that you can understand both in a better way. So if I talk about the default access modifier, okay, default members. Default members of a class is accessible only within the same package and other classes of the same package. Default are also called as package level access modifier or package private access modifier because they can access only inside the same package, inside the same package. Now you see, let's the class is public, but if I make any variable as default, if I make any variable as default, now can you tell me where I can access this default variable now? Where I can access this default variable? In class A and class B, correct? Class A and class B. I can access in class A and class B because they belongs to same package. Can I access in class C? No. Even though it's a child class, we cannot access. Can I access in class C? No, we cannot access in class C also. Because the default access modifier, if you make any method, this is very common practice, huh? Because sometimes we don't mention any access modifier and we directly try to access and we end up with error. And in labs now, you will not able to understand like why you're getting error there. Because you're not actually properly following this access rules. So you always get error, because if you don't remember the access rules, no, there will be a maximum chances that you will end up with the lot of errors with regarding the accessing of your data methods and the constructors and all. So as I told you, like default access modifiers can only be accessed within the same package. So only class A and class B can access Z, others cannot access. Others cannot access this class, I mean the variable Z, because it is default. Okay, because it is default. Now, let's say if I make this as protected, let's say I make this as protected. Now tell me where I can access this Z now. In which classes I can access Z if it is protected? Class A and class B, correct? Class A and class B. In any other class I can access protected? Yes, in class C as well, because it is a child class of the A. It's a child class of A. Suppose if it is a not child class, then can I access? If it is not a child class, then can I access? No. So protected behaves like a default, correct? Protected is same like default, that they can access within a package. They can access within a package, but one additional point is this protected access modifier can also be accessed by the child class. Okay, child class. That's why default is more restricted than protected, because in default only A and B I can access, whereas in protected even I can access by the child class from the other packages. Even we can access from the child class from the other packages. So if you look at the protected access modifier, we look at the protected access modifier. The protected access modifier says that of protected members of the class is accessible within the same class and other class of the same package. Till now, the definition of default is same, and also accessible in the inherited classes of the other. So this is the add-on statement. Okay, this is the add-on statement where you can see that it can also be accessible in the inherited classes of the other packages as well. Okay. Protectors are also called derived level access modifier. This could be another interview question. They are called derived level access modifier because they can be accessed in the derived classes. Protected access modifiers cannot be applied to classes and interfaces, same like private. And this is how it looks like. Now you see here, class A has protected methods, method 1 and method 2. Class B can access because it's a child class. It can access the method, but class C cannot access as in different package. Class C cannot access because it's neither a child class nor in the same, nor in the same. So with this, can we conclude the member access rules? Is this clear for all? Where we can access public, where we can access private, where we can access default, and where we can access protect. Great. I have few questions to conclude, then we will go for a test. Okay. Great. I would like to see if you have any questions. Meantime, let me just have few questions before we conclude this topic to check your understanding. Here is the diagram which I have explained you. You can also take a screenshot for your reference. Anytime you can just refer this. You can answer any sort of question related to member access rules. Okay, what is private, what is default, what is protected, and what is public. So you can understand the same diagram which we have learned, but little change. Okay, so now let's have few questions. One note here. Local variables, you cannot use any access modifier for local variables. Huh? Uh, can access modifiers be applied to local variables? The answer is no, you cannot apply. There is never a case where access modifiers can be applied to local variables. You can certain that any local variables declared with an access modifier will not apply. So for example, this is again a common mistake. Let's say local variable means if you make any variable inside the method. If I declare any variable int x here as 10, this becomes a local variable. Okay, this becomes a local variable for the main method. It could be any method as well, like even in the print balance, deposit, or anywhere. So you can make this local variable, no problem. Okay, making a local variable is not a problem. So now when I compile our test class, okay, now when I compile our test class, it's working. And even when I execute, it will work. It will execute, no error. But the moment I declare it as private, okay, you see, I will be getting an error saying that local variables cannot be accessed. So illegal start of the expression, it's telling you like you cannot declare any modifier before the local variable. Okay, so please make sure for local variables, don't you make use of any access modifier because they are not the members of the class. Okay, those rules are applied for the members of the class. It's a member of the method that creates in the stack, so it doesn't, you cannot make use of any modifier here. Okay, so with this note, there's a question. Let's see if we have, you can answer me. What will be the output for this program? We have a couple of questions. Please answer all of these questions so that we can go for a test. Okay, I got the first answer. Nice. Which line and how many errors we will get? Which line and how many errors we will get? One error. Okay, at this seventh line. So the options are compiles and works, compilation error, constructor is private. Okay. If I can do small change here, okay, if I can do the correct answer is compilation error. But if I do a small change like this, will it be allowed now? Will this be allowed? Yes or no? What do you think, guys? Yes. Okay. It is allowed. It is allowed now because this main method I put it inside the bank class only. The main method I put inside the bank class itself, so it is allowed because private members can be accessed within the class. So I'm accessing from the same class, so it is allowed. Okay, nothing wrong. Okay. So, but anyhow, the correct answer earlier, based on the earlier program, was the compilation error. Okay, constructors cannot be accessed. They can be private, but they cannot access. Now, another question from packages and access modifier. See this carefully. Let's say we have package one and we have a.java, package one, and we have class is public, and now we have package two, test.java. Now importing and making a main method, creating an object and printing this value. What happens? There are two packages, P1 and P2. What will be the output now? Okay, I am getting different responses. Some of you thinks it gives error, and some of you thinks like it prints 10, and even some of you think it will give runtime error. So whether it is a compile time error, runtime error, or it prints value 10. Okay. So the correct answer is it okay? Let's see file test.java. Uh, is this okay? Importing p1.a. Will this line give you error? Let's go line by line and try to understand. Import p1.a. Will this line gives you error? No, right? Because class is public, so this line will not give you error. Whether a object is equal to new object, will this line give you error? Will this line give you error? Okay. System.out.println object.value. Will this line give you error? Yes. Why? Because the variable is default. As the variable is default, can I access in other packages? Right? That's what we learned. Okay. Even though class is public, but if the variable is default, I cannot access in other packages. Okay. So those who say like the will print 10, you all agree that now it will not print 10 because the variable is default. If it is in the same package, it will work. If it is in the same package, it will work. As it is in a different package, it will not work. Okay, great. So the correct answer is compilation error, not runtime error. Compiler itself will not allow you to compile the program. Now, one more. Let's say we have package one, class A, void show, system.out.println. Okay. Now we have package two, which is b.java. Package two, importing the class. Okay. Public class B, public static void main. Okay. A.object and object.show. What will be the output for this? Compilation error. Okay. How many errors will get Manoj? How many errors? You can count the lines and tell me how many errors we will get here. So compilation error is the right answer, but how many errors? Let's see from others. How many errors we may get? Actually, let me tell you, there are 4 errors. Can you identify the lines? Gives you the 4 errors. The total errors we will get here is 4. Okay. This import will give you error because the class is not public. Import will give you 1 error. A object is equal to new object will give you 2 errors because I'm accessing the class and calling the constructor. And object.show will also give you error because it is default. Okay. So there are total 4 errors we will be getting. Clear? Okay. Quickly moving forward. Now we have, let's say we have package P1, public class parent, protected void greet. Okay. And hello. Now we have package two, importing the parent, making a child class, public static void main, making an object, calling the greet. What will be the output now? Okay, it will print hello, right? Why? Because protected can be accessed by the child classes. So method is protected, so I can access inside the child class, nothing. So this way, I can say that we can conclude the access modifier. The first question is about the access modifiers. You can see here I make the variable x as public and y as private. Created a constructor where I'm initializing them. Looks good till here, so there's no problem with the class called access. But here in another class, when we try to access this y, we will be getting a compilation error. So the correct answer is compilation error. Why? Because y is private, right? So they may give this big program to make you confused, but the moment you see this as private, you can directly say that you cannot access the private data. So that way you're getting an error at this particular line that data is private, you cannot access. Okay, that's why the answer is compilation. Second question, I hope everybody might have answered correct. Oh, still I'm getting a wrong answer here, but we are very clear, right? There's a package called test and the class is default, but the variable is public. We had a discussion on this. We can directly access and change the value of the variable in which class. Any class from any package? No, because class is not public. So the option A. So I hope now you clear that you cannot access because the class itself is default. Only target class? No, because it's not private. So option B is also wrong. Any class in the test package is the right answer because uh, as it is class is default, only I can access within the test package. So 39% of us correctly answered, but many of us have answered wrong options. So I hope now it's clear. Like option C is correct that any class in the test package can access because class is default. Okay. Next question. So the question is like we have a package A where we have a class with the default variable, protected variable, and public variable. Now we have a class package B. Importing the package class is public, no problem. Okay, making the object is no problem. But accessing A and accessing B will give error because A is default, I cannot access, and B is protected, I cannot access because it's not a child class. So line number 8 and line number 9 will give error. Line number 8 and line number 9 will give error. Okay. So that way option 8, line number 8 and line number 9 will give error for this. The question was like a constructor is private within a class I'm accessing. We have almost discussed these questions during the sessions itself, right? A similar kind of question. So that will become answering correct for you. So here there is nothing wrong calling the private constructor because within a same class it will print hello world. So the correct answer is prints hello world. And some of us thinks like it will give compilation error. No, it will not give any compilation error because we are in the same class. Okay. So it will not give any compilation error. Then for the next question, here actually it's a method because we know like we are putting void before A, so it's a method. And when we are invoking the constructor, okay, when we are invoking the constructor, so default constructor gets invoked and it will print nothing. So the correct answer is the code compiles and execute with no output because there is nothing wrong with the program. Okay. Some of us thinks like compilation error or print class A. No, because it's not a constructor, so it will not print class A. I'm not calling the method and it will not give any error because everything looks good. But simply it will call the default constructor and it will call the default constructor. So we have a class with two constructors. One is default, I mean no argument, and one is one argument. I'm calling with one argument, so one argument gets called and printed. So the output will be Java. Okay, the output will be just Java. So the correct answer is it will print Java. It will not print default Java because that default constructor will not get called. Okay, and nothing wrong having two constructors inside your class. Nothing wrong with this. So no compilation error. The default constructor will not be executed. Only parameterized constructor get executed because I'm calling the parameterized constructor. Next question. So here give you error. Why? Because there is a parameterized constructor. You are calling a default constructor. So we will get error because there is no default constructor for this. Okay. There is no default constructor for this. Protected members are visible within the same class. Yes. Visible within the same package by subclass. Yes. Visible within the same package by non-subclass. Yes. Visible with different package by subclass. Yes. So all are correct. Okay, all are correct regarding protected access modifier. So the answer is all are correct because you read the statements now, you will understand. Now, a couple of questions from control statements. Actually, there was a quiz one on control statements. We think we will be having it later. So here, what happening here is 5 variable 2 becomes 1. So 1 is equal to 5, wrong. So it will go and increment the variable 2 and print. So that will print you the incremented value of the variable. Okay, incremented value of the variable. So which is nothing but 2. Why? Because the variable 1 became 2. Okay, the variable 1 became 1 actually. Variable 2 was earlier 6, now it became 1. So after incrementing, it will be 2. So the correct answer is last question. Here, the variable is instance variable and it is public, no problem, but we cannot access from static context. So that way we will get error. We discussed this before, right? Like main is static and you cannot access. So we will be getting a compilation. And we will be discussing this when we go for static things. But one rule is This is very common question you generally get in interviews, and it looks very straightforward, and you generally think that it prints 10. What is wrong with that? But moving forward, that main cannot access the instance variable. Let me quickly show you here with an execution. So if I go here, let's say we have this variable, even though if it is private, or I'll make it public for you. Okay. So let's say we have index, and we have this system dot out dot print, and we try to print x. We will be getting an error saying that static method cannot access non-static data. That's a rule for static members. Okay, moving forward, we will see this. But this was, I have discussed this earlier, so I kept it for the test, because when we discuss about the main method, I told this concept, right? When I compile this, it gets error. Non-static variable cannot be referred from the static context. So it looks like very straightforward and it prints 10, but it will not, because you cannot access this variable static. Okay. If you have to fix this, you have to make this as static, or you make an object of the same class and then call either of this. Now it will work and prints 10 for you. So now when I compile and execute, it's print.